Don't let him leave. The whisper was so soft it barely touched the air, yet it cut through the grand marble lobby of the Harrington Grand Hotel like a warning no one else was meant to hear. Amaya Johnson stood half-hidden behind William Harrington, her small hands gripping the sleeve of his tailored suit as guests moved past under crystal chandeliers that scattered light like broken stars. William, a man who had closed billion-dollar deals without blinking, turned his head slightly, confusion tightening his expression as he followed the direction of her gaze. Across the lobby, Daniel Cross adjusted his coat calmly, a faint smile on his face as if nothing in the world could disturb his pace. "Amaya," William said under his breath, careful not to draw attention. "What are you talking about?" But the girl did not look at him. Her eyes stayed locked on the man near the exit, her voice lower now, urgent in a way that didn't match her age. "He's going to leave before you see it." The words made no sense, yet something in her tone made William hesitate. Around them, the hotel continued its elegant rhythm, the soft clink of glassware from the lounge, the distant hum of elevators, the polite laughter of guests unaware that anything unusual was happening. William followed Daniel with his eyes. The man paused briefly at the revolving door, checking his phone, then stepped forward again as if following a perfectly normal schedule. Nothing stood out. Nothing was wrong. And yet Amaya's grip tightened. "Please," she added, almost inaudible. William exhaled slowly, torn between logic and instinct. He had met Amaya only 3 hours ago, a child with quiet eyes who had wandered into the executive reception room during a scheduled meeting. She had not spoken much then, but now, her voice carried something sharper than fear. It carried certainty. William raised his hand slightly, signaling to one of his security staff near the concierge desk. "Hold the exit for a moment," he said calmly, though his tone carried authority that didn't invite questions. The guard hesitated but moved. Daniel Cross noticed the subtle shift immediately. His pace slowed, and for the first time his eyes flicked toward William. A polite smile remained on his face, but something behind it tightened. "Is there a problem, Mr. Harrington?" Daniel asked as he approached, voice smooth, rehearsed, controlled. "No problem," William replied, watching him carefully now. "Just verifying a few things." The lobby seemed to grow quieter, as if the building itself had leaned in to listen. Amaya stepped slightly forward from behind William, her small shoes clicking softly against the polished floor. She did not look intimidated. She did not look uncertain. She looked as if she had already seen something no one else had noticed. "Check the cameras," she said suddenly. William glanced down at her. "What cameras?" he asked. She pointed toward the ceiling corner where a discreet black dome overlooked the entire entrance. "The security footage," she said. "He already did it, before he even walked in." A flicker of discomfort crossed William's face, not because he believed her fully, but because she was specific in a way children should not be. He turned slightly and gave a quiet instruction to his security lead. Within moments, a tablet was brought forward, displaying a live feed and archived angles from the lobby. Daniel stopped a few feet from the exit now, hands resting loosely at his sides. "This is unnecessary," he said lightly, though his posture had changed. William did not respond. His eyes were on the screen. Amaya leaned in slightly, pointing again. "Go back to when he entered," she insisted. The footage rewound. Daniel Cross appeared at the entrance, composed, adjusting his watch. Normal. Professional. Harmless. Then Amaya spoke again, softer this time, almost a breath. "Slow it down." William gestured. The technician complied. Frame by frame, the lobby replayed itself. People passed. Doors opened. Laughter echoed. Then something subtle appeared. Daniel paused near a reflective glass panel, just for a fraction of a second longer than necessary. His hand moved slightly toward a shared workstation table where temporary documents had been placed earlier. Nothing dramatic. Nothing obvious. But Amaya's eyes sharpened. "There," she said. William leaned closer. The angle was imperfect, but the reflection told a different story. Daniel's hand had not simply rested near the documents. It had aligned something. A small motion. Precise. Intentional. William's expression changed, not to panic, but to calculation. Daniel noticed the shift. The air between them tightened. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Daniel said evenly. But Amaya did not move. She simply repeated the only thing she had said since the beginning, as if everything depended on it. "Don't let him leave." And for the first time, William Harrington did not respond with certainty. He responded with doubt. The silence that followed felt heavier than the marble floor beneath them. William Harrington did not move his eyes from the security footage, yet his attention was no longer divided. It had narrowed completely onto the small details that Amaya Johnson seemed to notice before anyone else. Daniel Cross stood only a few feet away now, his posture still composed, but his fingers adjusted his cuff link once, a gesture so minor it would normally be invisible in a room full of executives and guests. Yet Amaya noticed it instantly. "He is checking the exit timing," she said quietly, almost as if thinking out loud rather than speaking to anyone. William glanced down at her. "What did you say?" he asked, lowering his voice further so it would not carry across the lobby. Amaya did not take her eyes off Daniel. "People do that when they are planning to leave fast," she replied. William exhaled slowly, not dismissing her words this time, but weighing them. Around them, the hotel continued its normal rhythm, yet it felt distorted now, as if reality had been slightly tilted. Guests passed without knowing that a single decision was quietly forming near the entrance. William turned slightly toward his security lead again. "Pull the hallway cameras leading to the west exit," he instructed. The technician nodded and began switching feeds. Daniel smiled faintly, as if amused by the attention. "I hope this is not about me," he said lightly. William did not answer immediately. Instead, he watched the screen as the footage updated. The hallway camera showed Daniel moving through a corridor moments earlier. He was walking at a normal pace, but Amaya leaned closer to the tablet again. "Pause it there," she said. The technician obeyed. The frame froze. Daniel was mid-step, holding his phone in his right hand. Amaya pointed again, her small finger steady. "Zoom his hand." William's brows tightened. The technician zoomed in. On the screen, Daniel's thumb was hovering over his phone screen, and for a fraction of a second, there was a faint reflection of another device being unlocked. William leaned in closer now, his expression sharpening. "That is not his primary phone," Amaya said calmly. The words landed with a weight that shifted the atmosphere immediately. Daniel's smile faded slightly, just for a moment, before returning. "This is ridiculous," he said, though his tone had lost its earlier ease. "I am here for a scheduled business discussion." William finally looked at him directly. "Then you will not mind waiting a few more minutes," he said. The security lead now approached quietly. "Sir, the side exit has been temporarily restricted," he reported. Daniel nodded slowly, as if accepting the inconvenience, but his eyes scanned the lobby for alternatives. Amaya noticed the movement instantly. "He is looking for another way out," she said again. William felt a shift inside him now, not fear, but clarity forming under pressure. He gestured toward the tablet again. "Continue playback." The hallway footage resumed. Daniel reached a corner where two corridors intersected. He slowed briefly, adjusting his jacket. It looked normal until Amaya spoke again. "Stop there." The frame froze again. She leaned closer, pointing at a faint detail near the corner wall. "There," she said. William squinted. At first, he saw nothing unusual, but then the technician enhanced the contrast slightly. A small reflection appeared on a glass panel near the corner. Daniel's hand had moved toward a wall-mounted access keypad for less than a second. Not long enough to raise suspicion in real time, but long enough to register a sequence. William's jaw tightened slightly. "Was that door accessed?" he asked the security lead. The lead checked quickly. "That corridor connects to the server documentation storage access route," he replied. A quiet tension settled in William's posture now. Daniel shifted his stance slightly, as if sensing the change in energy. "If this is about internal systems, I assure you I have no interest in restricted areas," he said. His voice was steady, but slightly more formal now, less relaxed than before. Amaya finally looked directly at him for the first time. "You went there before you came here," she said simply. Daniel blinked once, slowly. "That is not possible," he replied. William raised a hand slightly, signaling for silence, not because he agreed, but because he wanted the footage to speak further. The technician rewound again, this time focusing only on corridor access logs synchronized with video timestamps. A digital overlay appeared. Daniel's movement through the hallway aligned with a brief, unauthorized access signal. William's expression hardened, not into anger yet, but into recognition that something was no longer theoretical. It was measurable. Daniel noticed the screen now. His expression changed subtly, the first real crack in his composure. "This is being misinterpreted," he said more firmly. Amaya took a small step forward, still calm. "Then show the rest," she said. William looked at her again. "What rest?" he asked. She did not answer immediately. Instead, she pointed toward the final feed segment still loading on the screen, the part where he thought no one was watching. The room felt smaller in that moment, as if the entire hotel lobby had narrowed into the glow of that screen. Daniel's eyes flicked toward the exit again, just briefly, just instinctively. And William Harrington, for the first time that evening, made a decision not based on assumption, but on what he was now beginning to see for himself. The moment the third camera feed loaded, the entire atmosphere in the lobby shifted in a way that could not be ignored anymore. William Harrington leaned closer to the tablet, his eyes fixed on the synchronized hallway footage, while Amaya Johnson stood perfectly still beside him, as if she already knew what the next frame would reveal. Daniel Cross had not moved far from the entrance, but his posture had subtly changed, less relaxed, more controlled, as if he was now fully aware he was being observed. The technician adjusted the playback speed, and the hallway corridor appeared again, this time from a wider angle that included the intersection near the restricted access door. "Play it in real time," Amaya said quietly, her voice steady but firm. William nodded once. The footage resumed. Daniel walked through the corridor at an ordinary pace, passing 2 hotel staff members without interaction. Everything appeared normal for the first few seconds. Then Amaya raised her hand slightly. "There," she said. The technician paused immediately. William leaned in. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Daniel was simply walking, holding his phone, adjusting his jacket. But Amaya's eyes remained locked on the corner of the screen. "He slowed down right before the junction," she said. William frowned slightly. "That is not unusual," he replied. But Amaya shook her head. "Not slowing down to stop. Slowing down to look." The technician rewound a few seconds. Frame by frame, Daniel approached the junction again. And this time, William noticed it too. A micro pause. Less than a second, but enough to register awareness of something off-screen. Daniel's eyes flicked toward a service panel mounted near the wall. William's expression tightened slightly. "What is behind that panel?" he asked. The security lead responded immediately. "That connects to internal network routing for building communications and guest access logs." A brief silence followed. Daniel, still in the live view, continued walking as if nothing had happened. But Amaya stepped closer to the tablet again. "He was not just looking," she said. "He was confirming." William looked down at her. "Confirming what?" he asked. She did not answer directly. Instead, she pointed at the next segment of the footage already queued in the system. "Show the elevator feed," she said. The technician switched cameras instantly. Now the view changed to the service elevator area. Daniel appeared again, entering the elevator alone. The doors closed behind him. The timestamp indicated a 2-minute and 40-second ride. Nothing seemed out of place at first, but Amaya leaned in closer. "Speed it up slightly," she said. The footage played faster. The elevator indicator lights showed floors passing normally. Then, halfway through the ride, Daniel shifted his position slightly and turned toward the corner of the elevator where a maintenance panel was embedded. William narrowed his eyes. "Freeze," he said. The frame stopped. Daniel's hand was near the panel, but not touching it yet. Amaya pointed again. "He did not need to open it fully," she said. William studied the image. The maintenance panel had a small diagnostic interface used for service checks. Nothing a guest should interact with. "Is there any record of access attempts?" William asked. The security lead checked the system logs quickly. A pause followed. Then he responded, "There is a partial authentication handshake recorded at that exact timestamp." The words hung in the air. Daniel's expression in the frozen frame remained calm, but now it looked different under scrutiny. Not relaxed. Calculated. "Resume," William said quietly. The footage continued. Daniel removed his hand from the panel, straightened his posture, and stepped back as the elevator reached its destination. He exited calmly, smoothing his jacket once more. On the surface, nothing had changed. But in the room watching him, everything had changed. William leaned back slightly, processing the information, while Amaya remained focused, her gaze still locked on the screen, as if expecting more. "He is not finished yet," she said softly. Daniel, in the live lobby feed, finally turned fully toward William again. His voice remained controlled, but there was now a noticeable tension beneath it. "I believe this is becoming unnecessary," he said. William did not respond immediately. Instead, he looked at Amaya. "Is there anything else?" he asked her. She hesitated for the first time, just briefly, then nodded toward the final archived clip still buffered in the system. "One more thing," she said. The technician opened it. This time, the footage showed Daniel near a quiet service corridor moments before entering the main lobby. He stopped for exactly 1 second. That was all. But in that single second, a faint interaction appeared on the screen. A brief exchange near a reflective surface. Not visible in direct view, only in distortion. William leaned forward again, his focus absolute now. "Enhance reflection layer," he instructed. The image sharpened. In the reflection, Daniel's hand moved in a pattern that did not match normal gesture or adjustment. It was deliberate, controlled, almost coded. William's eyes narrowed. "That is not a coincidence," he said quietly. Amaya finally looked up at him. "That is why I said do not let him leave," she replied. And for the first time since the situation began, Daniel Cross took a step backward instead of forward. The shift in the room was no longer subtle. It had become visible in the way people moved, in the way sound seemed to lose its natural rhythm inside the Harrington Grand Hotel lobby. William Harrington stood slightly forward now, no longer just observing the security footage, but actively controlling the situation as if the entire environment had turned into a controlled perimeter. Daniel Cross remained near the entrance, his earlier confidence now replaced by a more careful stillness, as though every movement had to be measured. Amaya Johnson stayed close to William's side, her presence quiet but unshakably focused, her eyes still locked on Daniel, as if she were reading something invisible to everyone else. "Explain this," William said calmly, his voice no longer questioning but direct. Daniel exhaled slowly, adjusting his posture. "There is nothing to explain," he replied. "You are reviewing fragments of routine movements and interpreting them out of context." William did not respond immediately. Instead, he gestured slightly toward the tablet, still displaying the enhanced reflection analysis. The image remained frozen on Daniel's brief interaction with the service corridor panel. "Routine movements do not trigger authentication signals in restricted systems," William said. His tone was controlled, but firm enough that nearby staff stopped pretending not to listen. Daniel's expression tightened briefly, then returned to calm. "That system is designed to detect many types of interference," he said. "False positives are not uncommon in high-traffic environments." Amaya took a small step forward. Her voice was soft but precise. "He did not touch it like a guest," she said. William looked down at her. "Then how did he touch it?" he asked. Amaya hesitated for the first time since this began, not because she was uncertain, but because she was choosing her words carefully. "Like someone who already knew what it would respond to," she said. A quiet tension spread through the immediate space between them. Daniel's eyes shifted toward Amaya for the first time with direct attention, no longer ignoring her presence. "That is a serious accusation," he said calmly. "From a child." William raised a hand slightly, cutting off any escalation in tone. "She is not making an accusation," he said. "She is describing what she observed." The security lead stepped closer with a tablet in hand. "Sir," he said quietly, addressing William, "there is another log entry we did not initially flag." William turned. "Show me." The technician pulled up a secondary diagnostic file linked to the building's internal network. A new set of data appeared, showing a brief access synchronization attempt during Daniel's movement through the corridor. It was not a full breach. It was something more precise, something that tested the system without fully engaging it. William studied it for a long moment. "This is a probe," he said quietly. Daniel's jaw tightened slightly. "That is an assumption," he replied. William finally looked at him directly. "It is a recorded pattern," he said. The air in the lobby felt increasingly compressed, not by noise but by attention. Guests near the entrance had begun to slow their movements, sensing that something beyond a normal business interaction was unfolding. Daniel adjusted his stance again, his tone now more formal than before. "Mr. Harrington, I came here for a scheduled negotiation regarding infrastructure partnership. I have no involvement in your internal systems beyond professional scope." William did not answer immediately. Instead, he turned slightly toward Amaya again. "Is there anything else you saw?" he asked. Amaya nodded once. "The reflection was not the only part," she said. There was a second movement when he thought no one was watching the hallway behind him. The technician immediately cued the rear-angle footage. The screen updated, showing Daniel passing through the corridor moments earlier. At first glance, it appeared ordinary again. But Amaya stepped closer to the screen. "Slow it down to quarter speed," she said. The technician complied. Frame by frame, Daniel moved through the hallway. Then Amaya pointed. "There," she said. William leaned in. In the slowed footage, Daniel's hand briefly lifted near a wall-mounted emergency panel, not enough to activate it, but enough to brush the edge of its sensor range. The system log immediately responded with a minor alert, then cleared it automatically. William narrowed his eyes. "That was not accidental," he said. Daniel finally showed a small shift in expression, the first sign of strain breaking through his composed exterior. "You are constructing intent from milliseconds of movement," he said. William responded evenly. Intent is exactly what security systems are designed to detect at that level. A long silence followed. Amaya remained still, but her focus did not waver. Daniel took a slow breath, then spoke again, this time more carefully. "Even if there were anomalies, this does not justify restricting my movement inside a public hospitality facility." William turned slightly toward the security lead. "Lock all outbound exits except the main monitored route," he said. The instruction was immediate and clear. The security lead nodded and moved. Daniel noticed the shift instantly. His eyes flicked toward the exit again, but this time there was no attempt to hide it. Amaya noticed as well. "He is recalculating," she said softly. William looked at her. "Recalculating what?" he asked. She answered without hesitation. "How to leave without being seen fully on camera again." Daniel let out a controlled breath. "This is becoming excessive," he said. William stepped forward slightly, closing the distance between them for the first time. His voice remained calm, but it carried a finality now. "You are still inside this building because we are still verifying what happened in our systems," he said. "Not because you are being detained without reason." Daniel held his gaze for a moment. The lobby around them felt completely frozen now, all movement reduced to observation. And Amaya, standing between both men in silence, continued to look at Daniel Cross, as if she already understood the next move he had not yet made. The tension inside the Harrington Grand Hotel lobby had settled into something more structured now, like a controlled standoff where every movement carried weight and every silence felt intentional. William Harrington stood firmly at the center of the situation, no longer reacting to fragments of evidence, but guiding the entire flow of information with deliberate control. The security feeds remained active on the tablet in his hand, cycling between corridor angles, elevator logs, and lobby entry timestamps. Daniel Cross remained near the main entrance, his position unchanged, but his body language had shifted into something more contained, as if conserving every gesture. Amaya Johnson stayed close to William, her presence steady, her attention still fixed on Daniel without distraction, as though she was waiting for something inevitable rather than uncertain. William finally spoke, his voice calm but decisive. "All exits are being monitored," he said. "No one is preventing you from leaving, but every movement will be recorded until this review is complete." Daniel nodded slightly, his expression controlled. "That is acceptable," he replied, though his eyes briefly scanned the lobby again, measuring distances and angles. Amaya stepped slightly forward, her voice quiet but clear. "He will not leave through the front," she said. William looked down at her. "Why do you think that?" he asked. Amaya did not hesitate. "Because he already knows where the blind spot is," she replied. The security lead nearby checked the system feed again. "Sir," he said carefully, "the West Service Corridor has intermittent camera overlap due to maintenance scheduling." William's expression tightened. "When was that scheduled?" he asked. "Yesterday afternoon," the lead replied. Daniel shifted his weight slightly for the first time in several minutes. It was subtle, but Amaya noticed immediately. "That is the way he will try," she said softly. William turned his attention fully now toward the security team. "Increase coverage on all service corridors," he instructed. "No blind spots." Daniel exhaled slowly, then spoke with measured patience. "Mr. Harrington, this is escalating far beyond reasonable protocol for a hospitality environment. I am prepared to cooperate, but this level of restriction is unnecessary." William did not respond immediately. Instead, he reviewed the latest synchronization logs on the tablet. The patterns were no longer isolated. They were forming a sequence, a progression of controlled interactions with internal systems that suggested familiarity rather than coincidence. Amaya stepped closer again, pointing gently at the screen. He did not test once, she said. He tested in steps. William studied her carefully. Explain that, he said. Amaya pointed to the sequence of timestamps. First he looked, she said. Then he paused. Then he touched a system that should not respond to guests. Then he checked the exits. Her voice remained calm, almost analytical. William felt the weight of her observation settle more heavily than any single piece of footage. Daniel's gaze remained forward, but his fingers tightened briefly at his side before relaxing again. You are interpreting normal behavior as structured intent, he said again, though his tone was less confident than before. William finally turned to face him fully. Then explain the synchronization event in Corridor 3, he said. Daniel paused for a fraction longer than before responding. I did not initiate any system synchronization, he replied. William held his gaze. The system does not log itself, he said. A silence followed that was different from before. It was no longer observational. It was evaluative. Guests near the lobby entrance had begun to slow, sensing that the situation was no longer a simple corporate discussion, but something more procedural. Amaya remained still, her eyes never leaving Daniel. He is waiting for timing, she said softly. William looked at her. Timing for what, he asked. She answered without hesitation. For the moment when attention shifts. Daniel finally moved, not toward the exit, but slightly to the side, adjusting his position so that the lobby's central camera no longer had a direct line of sight without overlap. The movement was subtle, but in the context of everything already reviewed, it stood out immediately. William noticed it instantly. Stop, he said calmly. Daniel froze. William gestured toward the security lead. Lock camera alignment tracking on his position, he ordered. The lead complied immediately, and multiple feeds recalibrated, centering Daniel across overlapping angles. Daniel exhaled slowly, then spoke again, his voice controlled but now more constrained. I will ask again, he said. What exactly am I being accused of? William looked at the tablet, then at Amaya, then back at Daniel. At this moment, he said carefully, we are confirming whether your presence in our internal corridor systems was observational, incidental, or deliberate. Daniel's jaw tightened slightly. Amaya stepped forward once more, her voice soft but precise. He already answered that, she said. William looked at her again. What do you mean? Amaya pointed at the screen one final time. He did not deny the system, she said. He only denied being seen. The words landed heavily in the quiet lobby. William straightened slightly, his expression shifting into full procedural clarity. Extend monitoring to all exits, he said firmly. And keep the footage recording in real time. Daniel stood still, his composure intact, but now visibly under sustained observation. And Amaya Johnson, standing between authority and suspicion, continued to watch him with the calm certainty of someone who had already seen the outcome forming before anyone else understood it. The lobby of the Harrington Grand Hotel now felt like a sealed system where every movement, every sound, and every shift of attention was being measured in real time. William Harrington stood at the center of that control, his focus divided only between the live security feeds and the unfolding behavior of Daniel Cross, who remained positioned near the main entrance under full observation from multiple camera angles. Amaya Johnson stood slightly behind and to the side of William, her presence quiet but unwavering, as if she had stepped outside of time itself and was simply waiting for the exact moment something invisible would become visible to everyone else. The atmosphere was no longer about suspicion alone. It had become structured confirmation through observation. William spoke first, his voice calm but final in tone. All corridor feeds are now synchronized, he said. There are no blind zones remaining in this building. Daniel Cross responded with a slow nod, his expression still composed but noticeably more restrained than before. Then this situation should resolve quickly, he said. William did not respond to the implication. Instead, he glanced at Amaya. Do you see anything else? He asked. Amaya's eyes remained on Daniel, but her voice was steady. Not yet, she said. That single word changed nothing and everything at the same time. It confirmed that the observation phase was still active, that she was not finished interpreting what others had already decided was sufficient. Daniel shifted his stance slightly again, now more deliberate in his positioning. William noticed immediately. He is avoiding direct alignment with the central camera, William said quietly to the security lead. The lead confirmed, adjusting the system feed in real time. We can track full movement overlay now, he replied. Daniel exhaled softly, then spoke again, this time with a more controlled patience. I am beginning to feel like I am being processed rather than engaged, he said. William answered without hesitation. You are being observed under a system integrity review, he said. That is not personal. It is procedural. Amaya stepped forward slightly, her small voice cutting through the controlled structure of adult language. He is waiting for a gap, she said again. William looked down at her. What kind of gap, he asked. Amaya raised her hand slightly toward the tablet, displaying all synchronized feeds. A gap in attention distribution, she said. William studied her carefully. Explain, he said. She pointed at the screen. When too many cameras focus on one place, she said, people assume other places are safe. William's expression tightened slightly as he processed the logic. Daniel's eyes flicked briefly toward the nearest corridor junction again. It was not a long look, but it was enough. William saw it. Lock that junction feed, he instructed immediately. The technician complied. The screen zoomed into the corridor intersection where all service routes converged. Daniel's movement in live view showed him remaining still, but his attention pattern had clearly shifted toward the side corridors. William now spoke more directly. You are attempting to identify monitoring density distribution, he said. Daniel turned slightly toward him. That is an interpretation, he replied. William did not flinch. It is a recorded behavioral inference based on your movement patterns, he said. A brief silence followed. Amaya remained still, but her focus sharpened further, as if she was listening to something beneath spoken words. Then she spoke again, softer than before. He is not reacting to the system anymore, she said. William looked at her. What is he reacting to then, he asked. Amaya answered without hesitation. He is reacting to confirmation that the system is fully active. That statement changed the energy in the room again. Daniel's expression remained composed, but for the first time, he did not immediately respond. Instead, he looked toward the ceiling camera array, then toward the floor markers indicating sensor coverage zones. William noticed the shift instantly. He is mapping coverage visually, William said. The security lead confirmed. All motion tracking is fully active across all zones. Daniel finally spoke again, his tone still controlled, but now clearly constrained. At this point, continued restriction of movement without formal escalation is not standard protocol, he said. William responded calmly. You are free to leave once this review is complete. Amaya stepped forward again, her voice quiet but precise. He will not wait for completion, she said. William looked at her again. Why not, he asked. Amaya answered simply. Because he already knows what the next confirmation will show. The room felt heavier after that statement. Daniel stood still for a long moment, then adjusted his position one final time, not toward the exit, but toward a neutral point between two monitored zones. William noticed immediately. Stop tracking lateral shift, he ordered. Maintain full frame lock. The technician complied. Daniel exhaled slowly, then spoke again, his voice lower now. This level of scrutiny suggests predetermined conclusion, he said. William responded evenly. This level of scrutiny suggests incomplete information being resolved. Amaya's eyes remained locked on Daniel, unblinking. He is preparing for the moment when he stops being watched as a guest, she said softly. William looked at her again. And what happens then, he asked. Amaya did not answer immediately. Instead, she watched Daniel for a long moment, as if calculating something that had not yet fully appeared. Then she said, Then he chooses the only path left that is not on camera. William's expression tightened slightly as he absorbed that possibility. The security feeds continued to run in perfect synchronization. Every corridor, every exit, every elevator, all under complete visibility. And yet, in the center of that controlled system, Daniel Cross remained still, waiting, as if the next move he made would not be about escape, but about timing something no one else in the room had yet understood. The entire system inside the Harrington Grand Hotel had now reached a state of full synchronization, where every corridor, elevator, An exit route was being tracked in real time across multiple overlapping feeds. William Harrington stood motionless at the center of the control cluster, his focus no longer divided between possibilities, but concentrated entirely on behavior patterns unfolding in front of him. Amaya Johnson remained close to his right side, her presence calm but intensely focused, as if she was no longer reacting to events but anticipating them before they fully formed. Daniel Cross stood near the main lobby threshold, still under complete visual coverage, but now positioned in a way that placed him equidistant between multiple monitored zones. It was a detail that had not gone unnoticed. William's voice broke the silence first. "All movement lanes are accounted for," he said. "There is no unmonitored route remaining in this building." Daniel responded with a slight nod, his expression controlled but increasingly constrained. "Then there should be no further ambiguity," he said. William did not reply immediately. Instead, he looked at Amaya. "Is there anything you are still seeing that we are not?" he asked. Amaya did not take her eyes off Daniel when she answered. "Not what he is doing now," she said quietly. "What he is waiting for." William's eyes narrowed slightly. "And what is he waiting for?" he asked. Amaya paused for a fraction of a second before answering. "He is waiting for synchronization delay," she said. William turned slightly toward the security lead. "Is there any delay in feed alignment?" he asked. The lead checked instantly. "Less than 2 seconds between corridor relay nodes," he confirmed. William's expression tightened. "That is within normal tolerance," he said. Amaya shook her head slightly. "For systems," she said. "Not for people who know them." Daniel's gaze shifted subtly toward the far left corridor junction again. But this time, he did not move his head fully. It was only a partial glance, controlled and measured. William noticed immediately. "He is minimizing motion signature," William said quietly. The security lead adjusted camera overlays again. "Full biometric tracking remains active," he said. Daniel exhaled slowly, then spoke again, his voice now more restrained than before. "This has moved beyond reasonable interpretation of movement," he said. "At this point, I am being analyzed under assumptions that cannot be validated in real time." William responded calmly. "You are being analyzed under recorded system outputs," he said. "Not assumptions." Amaya stepped slightly forward again, her voice still calm, but sharper in focus. "He is not trying to escape in a normal way," she said. William looked down at her. "Then what kind of way is he trying to use?" he asked. Amaya did not hesitate. "The way that does not require looking." "Like escape," she said. A silence followed that was heavier than before. Daniel's posture remained steady, but his attention had clearly shifted into a more internal calculation, as if recalibrating the room itself rather than simply reacting to it. William turned slightly toward the tablet again. The synchronized feeds showed every possible exit fully covered, every corridor monitored, every elevator sealed under live tracking protocols. Yet Amaya's words introduced a variable that was not part of system logic, but human behavior prediction. William spoke again, this time more decisively. "Increase resolution on junction overlap zones," he instructed. "If there is any timing discrepancy, I want it visible." The technician adjusted the feeds instantly. The display sharpened across all angles, reducing latency between corridor transitions to near real time. Daniel noticed the change immediately. For the first time, his eyes flicked upward toward the ceiling cameras with direct awareness rather than passive acknowledgement. Amaya observed this shift without moving. "He sees the synchronization tightening," she said quietly. William looked at her. "And what does that tell you?" he asked. Amaya answered in a low, steady voice. "It tells him the window he was waiting for is closing." Daniel finally spoke again, but this time there was a slight change in tone, a controlled restraint layered with calculation. "If the intention here is system verification," he said, "then I request full disclosure of the criteria being used to interpret my movement." William responded without hesitation. "The criteria is full system transparency under anomaly detection protocol," he said, "which includes cross-referencing physical movement with system access logs." Daniel nodded slowly, as if absorbing the confirmation. "Then this is no longer a conversation," he said. William replied evenly. "It never was." Amaya stepped slightly closer to the screen again. "He is not reacting to what is visible," she said softly. William turned to her. "Then what is he reacting to now?" he asked. Amaya's gaze remained fixed on Daniel. He is reacting to what will be visible next, she said. The technician looked up briefly. Next feed cycle is updating in 3 seconds, he said. The countdown appeared on screen in real time. 3, 2, 1. The feed refreshed across all synchronized angles. Daniel Cross remained in position, fully visible, fully tracked, but now something subtle had changed in the alignment of his stance. William noticed it instantly. Hold all feeds, he said sharply. The system paused. In that suspended moment, the entire lobby seemed to lock into stillness again, as if the building itself was waiting for interpretation. Amaya did not move. Her voice, when it came, was almost imperceptible. Now, she said, he chooses. And every camera in the Harrington Grand Hotel remained fixed on Daniel Cross as the final phase of observation reached its breaking point. The entire Harrington Grand Hotel lobby felt suspended in a state of absolute stillness, as if every system inside the building had paused at the exact same moment to observe a single outcome. William Harrington stood at the center of the command position, his eyes fixed on the synchronized security network that now held every camera feed in perfect alignment. Amaya Johnson remained beside him, unmoving, her focus locked on Daniel Cross with a level of certainty that no longer felt like observation alone, but anticipation of confirmation. Daniel Cross stood exactly where he had been held in full view of all monitoring angles, his posture controlled, his expression measured, but something in the air around him had changed. It was no longer about what he might do. It was about what had already been set in motion. William's voice broke the silence first, calm but absolute. All feeds are locked, he said. There is no unverified movement path remaining. Daniel's eyes shifted slightly, not toward William, but toward the nearest camera cluster. Then I assume, he said carefully, this concludes whatever procedure is being conducted here. William did not respond immediately. Instead, he looked at Amaya. Is there anything still unresolved? He asked. Amaya's gaze did not leave Daniel as she answered. Yes, she said quietly. William's expression tightened slightly. What is unresolved? He asked. Amaya paused for a moment, then spoke with calm precision. What he wanted you to notice, she said. The room seemed to narrow again, not physically, but in attention. Daniel's composure remained intact, but his eyes no longer scanned the exits. They stayed forward, fixed, as if he had already accounted for every angle of observation. William turned slightly toward the main display. Run final sequence comparison, he instructed. The technician initiated the full system overlay. Every recorded movement from Daniel Cross over the past several minutes appeared in layered synchronization. Corridor entry, elevator access, lobby approach, service junction pause, reflection distortion, micro adjustments in positioning. William studied the sequence carefully. There is structure here, he said slowly. Daniel responded without hesitation. There is no structure, he said. There is only interpretation of normal movement under elevated scrutiny. William looked at him directly. Normal movement does not generate repeatable access anomalies across independent nodes, he replied. A brief silence followed. Amaya stepped slightly forward again, her voice soft but unwavering. He did not want to break the system, she said. William turned to her. Then what did he want? He asked. Amaya finally shifted her gaze from Daniel to the screen. He wanted the system to complete itself, she said. The technician hesitated. Sir, he said quietly, final correlation is ready. William nodded once. Display it. The screen updated again. This time, all movements were overlaid with system response markers. Each interaction Daniel had with monitored zones was now paired with internal system reactions. Minor authentication pulses, latency adjustments, access verification pings that had not escalated into alerts but had still been recorded. William's eyes narrowed as he processed the pattern. These are not random, he said. Daniel's expression tightened slightly. Correlation does not imply intent, he said. William responded immediately. Repetition across independent systems does. Amaya stepped closer to the display, pointing gently at a specific segment. That is the moment, she said. William leaned in. On the screen, Daniel had paused in the corridor junction, exactly as before, but now the system overlay revealed a synchronized response across multiple nodes that aligned within milliseconds of each other. Not a breach, not a failure, a mapping. William's voice lowered slightly. He was testing response synchronization, he said. Daniel exhaled slowly, his composure still present, but now visibly constrained by the precision of the analysis unfolding in real time. This is becoming a misinterpretation of proximity to system infrastructure, he said. William did not look away from the screen. It is a documented interaction pattern, he replied. Amaya remained still, but her voice carried a final clarity. He never tried to leave quickly, she said. William turned to her. Explain that, he said. Amaya looked at Daniel once more. He was waiting to see how long it took before someone noticed the pattern, she said. The room fell into a deeper silence than before. Daniel finally moved, not toward the exit, not backward, but slightly forward into the center of visibility where all cameras intersected perfectly. It was a deliberate choice. William noticed instantly. Stop movement, he said calmly. Daniel obeyed, then spoke in a measured tone. At this point, he said, continuing this process only confirms what I already expected. William responded evenly. And what did you expect? Daniel held his gaze steady. That systems like this do not distinguish between anomaly and intent without human interpretation bias, he said. William paused briefly, then answered. Then you have been correctly interpreted by multiple independent systems, he said. Amaya stepped forward one final time, her voice quiet but absolute. He is not trying to escape now, she said. William looked at her. Then what is he doing, he asked. Amaya answered without hesitation. He is waiting for the moment when interpretation replaces observation. Daniel stood still, fully visible under every synchronized feed in the Harrington Grand Hotel, as the final phase of system analysis completed its alignment, and William Harrington realized that what had begun as observation had now become confirmation. The Harrington Grand Hotel lobby had reached a state where silence was no longer absence of sound, but the presence of absolute attention. Every camera feed remained locked in perfect synchronization across corridors, exits, and transitional junctions. William Harrington stood at the center of this controlled environment, his posture steady, his focus no longer divided between possibilities but narrowed into confirmed behavioral mapping. Amaya Johnson remained beside him, her expression unchanged, her awareness still locked onto Daniel Cross with an intensity that suggested she was no longer observing a situation but reading its final outcome as it formed. Daniel Cross stood exactly where all feeds converged, fully visible under overlapping surveillance angles, his posture controlled, his breathing even, but now carrying the stillness of someone who had completed every internal calculation available to him. William spoke first, his voice calm but final in tone. All system outputs are synchronized, he said. There are no remaining untracked variables. Daniel nodded slightly, his expression measured. Then I assume this concludes the verification process, he said. William did not respond immediately. Instead, he looked at Amaya. Is anything still unresolved, he asked. Amaya did not take her eyes off Daniel as she answered. Yes, she said quietly. William's gaze sharpened slightly. What remains unresolved, he asked. Amaya paused briefly, then spoke with absolute calm. What happens after he is fully understood, she said. A quiet tension settled deeper into the room. Daniel remained still, but his attention shifted subtly, not toward the exits, not toward the cameras, but toward William himself. William turned slightly toward the main system display. Show final behavioral correlation output, he instructed. The technician activated the final layer of analysis. Every recorded interaction, movement, and system response associated with Daniel Cross now appeared in a unified sequence across the screen. It was no longer fragmented footage. It was a continuous behavioral structure. William studied it in silence. This is not random, he said finally. Daniel responded evenly. It is only structured because you are forcing structure onto observation, he said. William did not look away from the data. Independent systems do not align by interpretation, he replied. Amaya stepped forward slightly, her voice steady but precise. He stopped reacting, she said. William turned to her. When did he stop, he asked. Amaya answered without hesitation. When he realized he was no longer being observed as a person, but as a pattern. Daniel exhaled slowly, then spoke again. At this point, he said, continuing analysis only confirms bias in interpretation layers rather than objective intent. William finally looked directly at him. Intent is not required for system anomaly detection, he said. The The silence that followed was no longer procedural. It was final stage evaluation. The technician spoke quietly from the console. "Sir, all correlation thresholds have reached maximum alignment," he said. William nodded once. "Display full sequence overlay without segmentation," he instructed. The screen changed again. Now the entire timeline of Daniel Cross inside the hotel was presented as a single continuous map of movement and system response. Every corridor, every pause, every interaction with monitored infrastructure was connected into a single behavioral trajectory. William studied it carefully, his expression tightening slightly as recognition replaced uncertainty. "This is a predictive loop structure," he said quietly. Daniel's posture remained unchanged, but his voice lowered slightly. "Or it is a system confirming its own expectations," he said. William did not respond immediately. Amaya stepped closer to the screen, her small presence contrasting sharply with the scale of the system analysis unfolding around her. "It is neither," she said softly. William turned to her. "Then what is it?" he asked. Amaya's gaze remained fixed on Daniel. "It is the moment where observation stops being passive," she said, "and starts deciding what it wants to see." A deeper silence followed. Daniel Cross stood fully centered under all synchronized camera feeds, no longer shifting his attention toward any exit or corridor. Instead, he remained still, as if accepting the full visibility of every system in the building. William finally spoke, his tone steady but absolute. "All movement is now fully accounted for," he said. "There are no remaining unknown variables." Daniel looked directly at him for the first time in several moments. "Then you have your answer," he said calmly. William held his gaze. "And what answer is that?" Daniel's expression remained controlled. "That observation always becomes confirmation when it is repeated long enough," he said. Amaya looked between both men, then spoke one final time, her voice quiet but precise. "No," she said. William turned slightly toward her. "Then what is it?" he asked. Amaya answered without hesitation. "It is the moment when the system realizes the person it is watching has already stopped trying to be understood." The lobby remained perfectly still, every camera locked, every feed synchronized, every angle capturing the same figure at the center of total visibility, as William Harrington realized that what had begun as surveillance had now become something far more irreversible.